Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and faces of the Warhammer 40K setting. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. I'll keep this intro brief. Like and subscribe, share if you're able, all of the usual. Alas, the Maelstrom expansion book is not a cohesive narrative, as are the 500 Worlds documents. Plus, I have been somewhat hampered in my recording and editing duties due to the addition of a new squig to my family home. Say hello to Merlin. Thus, I have been forced to break the reading of this Lair of the Tyrant book into multiple bites. My deep apologies. Yet I hope these to be bonus videos, instead of replacing the scheduled Thaddeus and Tarquinius for next Friday. So, from the horse's mouth, the first segment of Lair of the Tyrant, the Maelstrom. To quote: The Maelstrom, Lair of the Tyrant. Beware the Maelstrom. Isn't that what old captains say? A childish injunction, as if the Maelstrom were some fable to be overcome by right thinking, as if it hasn't been a canker-blistering existence since before the Imperium existed, as if it isn't growing. Many are the names pinned upon the Maelstrom: the Well of Lies, the Shadow Mere, the Twisted Reach, the Moor. The Maelstrom is a swirling gyre that fluctuates in shuddering swells. It is the haunt of pirates and the treasures said to lure them. It is the lair of Xenos and the refuge of traitors. It is the sump into which the galaxy's evils drain. If only they stayed there. Raiders spill from the Maelstrom. They spear from its depths to skewer incautious fleets and ravage nearby systems, then escape with their plunder into the nebulae that curdle at the Maelstrom's fringes. They are not the only threat. Madness and mutation seep from within like pus from a sore. Nightmares given form coil from its core to rake worlds far from its ragged edges. Only the reckless dare its tides in attempts to push such horror back down the Maelstrom's gullet. Only the strong have any hope of surviving its grinding flows and gnashing straits. Warp roots buckle around it. Some are ruptured, like threads fringing a hole eaten through fabric by a grub. The wise know the Maelstrom cannot be enchained. Its horrors can only be repulsed when they emerge to reave and raid. So beware the Maelstrom, for it is all you can do. Across the infernal gyre of the Maelstrom, its twisted tides are the stage for countless bloody raids. Power-hungry reavers plague the stars of this corrupted reach, seeking plunder, revenge, mayhem, or the chance to enhance their infamy and renown. Death and madness await those without the will to survive, while the lures of wealth and power are a constant siren song that draws hunting fleets of raiders to prey upon each other in a ceaseless spiral of avarice. On tortured worlds lit by twisted stars, the Red Corsairs of Huron Blackheart haul the plunder of their raids back to their lairs. The prizes these renegades reap are not only equipment and munitions torn from the dead grasp of their victims, but also a grisly tithe of slaves triumphantly paraded as a mark of the pirates' power and notoriety. Most highly valued are captured loyalists of the Adeptus Astartes, whose gene seed is marked for extraction by leering chirurgeons. The Infernal Gyre. You come to the Maelstrom with a lash of weaklings at your back. You come here with a yoke of doctrines and laws hung around your necks, and their weight bending your backs into subservient obeisance. You came here hobbled by others with guilt, your strength rewarded with betrayal, or your faith denounced as heresy. The corpse on the golden throne made you strong. It made you to be feared, made you angels of death, fit to shake the stars. Then it shackled you. It tamed you. It demanded your sacrifice to prop up its failing empire. All the while, it condemned you for using your full might to do so. You came here, to me, seeking vindication. You sought escape and freedom, and foes on which to whet your blade. You sought an existence in which ambition is repaid with opportunity, skill and loyalty with power. You sought to survive. Look around at those already loyal to me, those who are your jailers. See in them the strength needed to survive the Maelstrom. See the scars that even transhuman physiology cannot mend. See the iron will and the hunger in what eyes remain. See their contempt for the taint of terror's leash that still throttles you. Look further, through the viewport. Behold the realm, my realm, into which you have strayed. There are grav reefs that crush battleships. There are spatial vortices that grind whole fleets beneath their teeth. Xenos mutants, pirates and renegades all eke out lives of desperation, ever hungry for fresh meat and unwary victims. If you are not strong enough to survive here, you are useless to me. What rumors you have heard about the Maelstrom are true, and they are but a fraction of the danger in this region. Now, swear a new oath. Grow strong. With undying loyalty to me, there is only one power in the Maelstrom that you need to fear. My wrath. Master of the Maelstrom, Huron Blackheart's broadcast from the bridge of Spectre of Ruin during the induction of new Red Corsairs, transmitted from every vox emitter of nearby ships and the newly suited vox beads of inductees. The Maelstrom. The Maelstrom is a huge and ancient warp real space interstice near the galactic core. This region scars both dimensions with a supernatural vortex of tainted reality. It offers hazardous refuge for the damned and a shifting, dangerous mire to nearby systems and ships. The Maelstrom is a sprawling region where reality and the warp are intermingled. Its presence in real space is marked by a slowly turning gyre of sickly energies, gaseous nebula, dust clouds, and stellar material that prevents scrutiny from outside. In the night skies of planets even far from its fringes, the Maelstrom is a hideous stain, a glowing blemish that invites madness to look upon. Within the warp, although space and time are mutative concepts, navigators say that areas analogous to the Maelstrom churn with tempests and radiate a dark light that obscures the beacon of the Astronomicon. It is, therefore, difficult and dangerous to chart courses around the Maelstrom's fringes, let alone into the region itself. Typical of its inconstant nature, the warp's corruption does not saturate the entire area in the same way. Within the bounds of the Maelstrom are stars and planets, as well as many other phenomena of real space. Intermittent passages and isolated zones of reality exist in which the laws of physics retain a fragile grip. Yet this is not to say that the Maelstrom is in any way safe or sane. Seemingly random surges of warp energies consume whole stellar systems. There are stars that blaze with eldritch energy rather than light, some of which are colossal stellar crystals that radiate cryothermal rays. Planets exist whose surfaces rise with continental moors. Dense shoals of phasic asteroids can snap into reality embedded into ships passing through what their captains thought was a safe route. Mutation and sorcery are rife, even on relatively rational worlds. space and time twist, sometimes aligned with the swirling gyre of energy. Still, compared to regions of the galaxy afflicted by more volatile warp storms, the Maelstrom is somewhat stable. This relative stability, along with the promise of worlds shrouded from the rest of the galaxy, has made the Maelstrom a magnet for those seeking to hide themselves and their activities. There are primitive tribes and mutant cults on some of the Maelstrom's habitable worlds, many enthralled to demonic deities or chaos champions and eking out desperate and violent lives. Outnumbering them are bands of pirates and betrayers, transhuman and alien alike, with ships and hard-won experience of the Maelstrom's unpredictable environs. The most powerful are the heretical renegades of the Red Corsairs and their tyrannical master, Huron Blackheart. The Maelstrom is a tortured reach with precious few resources and dangers that can threaten even well-established pirate strongholds. Most of these raiders risk their lives and sanity within the Maelstrom because they know such dangers will deter many pursuers from daring to track them back to their lairs. Those that do so are further confounded by the Maelstrom's twisted and obscuring phenomena that make trailing a raiding force and finding one's way back out of the region incredibly difficult. If the Maelstrom was solely a dangerous expanse into which those seeking escape disappeared for good, the galaxy species would likely ignore the region. Unfortunately for them, and especially for the inhabitants of sectors around the Maelstrom's fluctuating fringes, the area's denizens launch frequent savage forays from its depths. Imperial flotillas, as well as those of Xenos species and heretics enthralled to chaos, embark on retributive missions into the Maelstrom to punish its raiders or in attempts to scour their lairs from existence. Yet the hidden depths of the interstice are also a lure to those who believe treasure long thought lost might exist within. To plunge into the Maelstrom, however furtively, is nonetheless to stray into the pirate's realm, a lawless frontier whose roots they know far better than outsiders. The Maelstrom lies in the galactic western reaches of Ultima Segmentum, within Imperium Sanctus and relatively close to the galactic core. Throughout the Imperium's history, countless attempts have been made to map the interstice and pinpoint its planetary systems and warp routes. All failed. Even attempts to define its boundaries during periods of relative stability have resulted in no more than best guesses whose validity is temporary at best. Since the manifestation of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the Great Rift, the Maelstrom has swollen in size and engulfed whole clusters of systems that were once beyond its fringe. Its precise dimensions are subject to violent fluctuations. Its northeastern reaches sometimes flow and merge into the coreward portion of the Great Rift, while at other times there exist routes between the two. Ships whose crews have braved these channels and survived have reported detecting worlds previously thought destroyed by the warp, and other planets known to have endured have apparently vanished. The Maelstrom has never been static. It waxes and wanes, sometimes eccentrically, with individual arms of the Gaia's material and energy shifting as the center mass rotates. The Maelstrom Zone. A massive swathe of real space to the galactic west and south of the Maelstrom has historically been referred to by administratum adepts as the Maelstrom Zone. It dwarfs most imperial sectors in volume, but this region has never been more than a bureaucratic delineation. Mostly starless gulfs of wilderness space compared to the most densely packed spiral arm to the zone's southwest, it still contains hundreds of planetary systems, though relatively few habitable worlds. There is exotic material and chemical wealth here, alongside rare star types ripe for energistic harvesting. Some of these stars are conjectured to have originated in the galactic core and been spat out by extreme gravitic phenomena. Such wealth has long drawn humanity and others, and some of the habitable worlds in the area have become vital shipping, processing, and securing hubs from which to exploit it. Amongst Imperial-controlled space that extends perilously close to the Maelstrom's southern region are the Yasan and Demeter sectors. The Yasan sector's position high in the galactic plane spares it from the worst of the Maelstrom's influence. However, since the interstice's expansion, some of its worlds have been cursed with demonic incursions and mutation and have borne the brunt of larger raids. The White Scars chapter, whose home world in the sector survived a Red Corsair surface invasion, has been hard-pressed to respond in force to more than a handful of these threats. The Navis Imperialis assets of Battlefleet Demeter, meanwhile, comprise a large number of front-line and reserve squadrons spread between its naval bases. Their crews and ships sustain a punishing level of battle readiness to react to raiders from the Maelstrom. West and north of the Maelstrom are warp routes used by Imperial shipping and war fleets attempting to skirt the region. Their importance has surged since the Maelstrom's growth, and they are now indispensable lifelines. This region has come under assault from the sorcerers and warp fleets of the Thousand Suns, exerting their power from Sortiarius and forcing more fleets to brave routes nearer the Maelstrom. To the galactic north, meanwhile, are the Golgothan Wastes, of little intrinsic worth but great strategic value. Numerous wars have been fought against aliens emerging from the wastes, and it is laced with deep void defense stations. They require frequent reinforcement to ensure the threat from the wastes is contained. The Maelstrom and its denizens are a threat to nearby sectors and further afield. The region exists as a weakness in the heart of Imperium Sanctus. Raiders from its depths have struck far from their haunts, using unknown means to cross the Great Rift in large numbers and even spearing into Segmentum Solar. They are a threat that looms large in the minds of the High Lords of Terror and Heretic and Xenos warlords, one that can only ever be guarded against and never erased. My lady, as requested by your predecessor, and after the long and costly labour of many gifted souls, I hereby present the most recent efforts to compile reference material on the Maelstrom. Like every previous attempt, this work has exhausted our supply of valuable assets. Tarot readers have slit their throats with their own cards. Charter scribes have dislocated their jaws with incessant screams. Navigators have torn out their third eyes. Others, who have attempted to rationalize this region's anomalies, have suffered fates that have made it difficult to dispose of their remains. We, your servants, bear such duties with honor. I mention these challenges only to highlight the need for repeated replacements. Any attempt to reconcile the Maelstrom structure to reality, of course, cannot wholly succeed. Thus, this presentation can only illuminate the broadest of strata with the gilding of supposition. Further, I cannot guarantee how long such information will retain even its limited accuracy. The cycles of the Maelstrom's contortions cannot be predicted. Anticipating your requirements, we have begun cartomantic preparations for the next iteration. Julk, Interroga Seniores, Null Bastion. The Red Marches. This frontier zone lies at the Maelstrom northern fringe, where hexamatic divination usually positions it near the barren reaches of the Golgothan Wastes. The whole region is saturated with countless changing forms of malefic corruption. They mutate not only matter, but also energy, gravity, and space itself, riddling these supposed fundamental forces with mutative change. Mournhollow. Information from your contacts amongst rogue traders of Ultima Segmentum suggests the heart of this region may have been an Eldari world of old. Though no physical trace has been located, we have lost dozens of astropaths to the psychotemporal screams, hallucinations, and, as they described, waves of soul misery that persist in this region. What is known is that the worlds of Mournhollow are infested with semi-empiric neural predators and parasites of disturbing variety. The Ventorian Caldera. A chaotic scar dozens of light years across, the so-called Venetarian Caldera is a place of broken things and the haunt of countless bands of piratical Xenos. Magos Krell vouchsafed the assumption that it is believed to result from a technological catastrophe. Though what mortal artifice could splinter nebulae, embed slivers of one planet into another, or throw stellar cores into phasic flux. I shudder to think. The Tyrant's Crown. Tarot divinations reveal this region to comprise the foulest seat of power within the Maelstrom. It is almost wholly under the heretical rule of Huron Blackheart. Mistress Gravel's final valediction estimated the region to consist of 23 systems. Interrogations of captured renegades identify this as only one of the tyrant's many strongholds. Thus, there is no easy target for a decapitation strike against Huron's power base. The Zildwire Crevasse. Like a dark crack in reality, the seers tell me they believe this to be a fold in real space, but one of astronomical size. Its edges are lit by system clusters, drawn by the unnatural graphitic pull in the crevasse's deeps. There are tales of void ships falling over the edge and of roving stellar fragments glimpsed in the dark, though I hesitate to countenance such likely fabrication. The Great Legion. At least one significant Red Corsair stronghold exists in this veiled region. What few systems have been located here are thought to be a fraction of the true number. It is a shadow realm, a bruise on both the warp and real space. Negatars and umbral giants far outnumber true stars, casting a pall of unlight across all spectra. I dare not conjecture what repugnant heretics could have hidden lairs here. The Howling Gyre. I fear this domain is aptly named by the pirates who skirt its borders. Analysis by Magos Krell has failed to determine the nature of the subatomic resonance believed to instigate the disrupting noises in void ship superstructures. Huron Blackheart is known to have limited direct rule in this region. Numerous autonomous heretic outposts and Xenos holds exist in this reach, though thankfully the presence of the Null Bastion is a worthy beacon of imperial might. The Parachire Helix. The twisted nature of real space in this mire makes plotting vectors almost meaningless. Achieving firing solutions during void battles or calculating orbital trajectories are exercises in futility. Perversely, the tumultuous routes between the systems of the Parachire make interstellar travel less calamitous than elsewhere in the Maelstrom, a fact exploited by the Red Corsairs operating from Helix Beta. The Tyrant's Crown. My lady, here I present insights into just some of the subregions within the Tyrant's Crown. Threnody Rising, 612.4, New Badab. By some measures, New Badab is the greatest planetary base of the Red Corsairs. It seethes with hundreds of thousands of warriors, not only Huron's elite, but also humans, aliens, and mutants. Its cities are gigantic fortifications for billions of slaves, while its forges are labyrinthine shrines to piratical strength. The orbital dockyards can harbor hundreds of ships, and the defense network can shred an invading ship from half the system away. At the planet's southern pole lies the Palace of Thorns, Huron's largest bastion. It is a dark reflection of its namesake, the original Palace of Thorns, from which Huron was driven. Umbrox Tri, the Broken Narrows. This dangerous reach of the deep void is the principal route to the Tyrant's Crown. However, Huron knows other clandestine access ways, enabling him to resupply his strongholds or escape in the unlikely event of invasion. Apocalyptically ferocious empiric tempests border the Narrows, and within its channel are rogue planets untethered to any star. They stand out in the warp-lit Narrows like dark, rotting teeth. Ships seeking passage must thread an insane route amongst and around them, as all are dangerous. Many are seeded with orbital weapons or sorceries by Huron, while others possess malefic auras that push or pull at passing vessels. Capriscry Sinister 11, Hell's Iris. The name Hell's Iris refers to a planetary system and the formerly Imperial Star Fort, which sprawls in orbit above the warp-corrupted world of Irukal. Second in power only to New Badab, its approaches are guarded by ships and weapon arrays hidden amongst formerly orc-infested debris fields. The port controls an empiric juncture of dozens of warp routes. It serves Huron's needs as a way station, black market, naval repair facility, fueling terminal, and mercenary hub, among other roles. The services provided by its tens of thousands of inhabitants make Hell's Iris a lucrative and influential piece of Huron's burgeoning empire. Twixt 17, Cardinal, Corsairs Keep. The Blackstone fortress gifted by Abaddon currently lurks in the interstellar gulfs between the Vrost system and the Kymnos cluster. Despite attempts by Huron's underlings to locate a means to activate it fully, the ancient monstrosity remains dormant, yet the fortress and the surrounding void seethe with activity. Encrustations of weapon turrets and launch bays are constantly added to its surface. Warrior bands delve into its innards to combat Xenos incursions. Meanwhile, a bubbling slick of empiric seepage bleeds from the fortress, and many ships carrying rival sorcerers, priests, and seers jostle in their attempts to stem the wake. A9 Ascendant Vulgaris, Carfast Anchorage. This deep void gravitic anomaly possesses an unnatural entropic stability, which has made it an ideal haven for damaged ships to hide in for centuries. Since Huron seized it, many of his naval prizes have been brought here. They are caged in colossal refit shells for repair, grisly modification to hide their identity, or to be gutted for precious systems. The anchorage's strange properties also mean vessels and detritus end up here by chance. Space hulks, wreck fragments, and even whole ships with non-functioning engines drifting tombs for the icy corpses of their crew. All provide Huron's ghoulish engineers with sources of material. The Howling Gyre. My lady, these are the few malefic grade data trawls we have succeeded in amassing of the Howling Gyre. Imp Reg 23, Akronich, Galmec. A planet of unholy forge shrines and infernal industrial rituals, Galmec is one of the principal bases of the Wordbearer's Legion. Grand temples to demonic technology rise from here amidst continental fane fields and gigantic sacrificial altars. Heretic tech magi and forge masters of the Iron Warriors are also known to have holdings on Galmec, as well as infernal households of Chaos Knights. Around its blood-red star, Galmec's system orbits in unnatural procession. The trajectories of its sister worlds and moons twisted into ritualistic conjurations that funnel unholy power onto the world by which its rulers strike demonic pacts. Mortifex Conjunction 684. Kucholas. Kucholas is the only Necron tomb world remaining from the Vorshgek dynasty. It has suffered demonic infestations over the eons, possibly due to the degradation of its contra-empiric wards. The planet surface writhes with mutating landscapes, and hellish citadels rise from pools of sorcery. Demons have breached some reaches of the tomb complex, and ferocious wars are waged in the deep between the unliving and demonic. Swathes of the complex remain dormant, however. Their silent catacombs are warded by intact Noctilis barriers. The Vorskek's greatest treasures remain in their vaults, a lure to Necron and alien raiders alike. X94.1 Malumino Ingress, Fargos Hex. Once a world of the Pale Stars, outside the Maelstrom's borders, Faragos Hex vanished prior to the opening of the Great Rift. It has been glimpsed at various locations within the Maelstrom since, including several visitations to the Howling Gyre. Its appearance is a fell omen. It causes graphitic and empiric catastrophes in the systems that temporarily host it. The broadcast pleas of its inhabitants, meanwhile, draw Xenos and heretics in large numbers. Most prey on the worlds of its host system, those its cries have doomed. Few target Fargos Hex itself, heeding rumors that those who scream for aid are, in fact, predatory entities. Nadirus 234, Enquinoctus, the Null Bastion. This ancient fastness rises from black sands on a small planet resembling a shriveled, charred eyeball from orbit. An obscuring veil of unknown sources hides the planet from all augurs, holding back the Maelstrom's warp taint. Many groups and species have occupied the bastion over the eons, but it has been held by a succession of inquisitorial factions for several centuries. The latest overseer is Forica Scalen of the Ordo Astartes. She uses the Null Bastion as a base to cautiously build up her resources and expand her knowledge of the Maelstrom, sponsoring countless secretive forays into the wider Gyre. Obliquus Vector 981//72 Baldermort. The demon world of Baldermort lies on the fringes of the Howling Gyre. Glimmering rivers of fire lace through kaleidoscopic crystal jungles, and fractal congeries of floating peaks glide over bubbling pits of iridescent slurry. Many separate warbands of renegade space marines occupy strongholds amid this insanity, bartering for power and knowledge with sacrifice and malefic pacts. Baldermort's corruption saturates the worlds and asteroids of its system, such that esoteric crystals and wells of exotic energy can be found. Acquisitive Xenos and eldritch forge masters have often dared its dangers to seize them. Denizens of the Maelstrom, a nest of malignancy. Countless bands of heretics, Xenos, and mutants occupy the Maelstrom. Many remain small enough to evade retribution for their raids, but without the strength to challenge any of the Maelstrom's greater warbands. The true powers are those who establish a survivable foothold, expanding their reach through captured ships and their numbers by absorbing smaller warbands or leveraging their growing reputation to attract the ambitious. The denizens of the Maelstrom endure desperate lives of survival, piracy, and murder in the hellish mire. Existence is a constant struggle. Edible food, breathable air, and energy sources to support technology are scarce. The perpetual threat of raids by vicious rivals and the twisting of reality wear away its sanity. The taint of the warp brings physical transmutation and spiritual trauma. Most that flee into the Maelstrom do not live long enough to learn how to survive there. Yet there are those who thrive in such conditions. Heretics. Within the Maelstrom, there are those who have turned their backs on the Imperium. Humans, transhumans, and individuals, variously labelled by mankind as mutants or abhumans, dwell in the region's worlds, albeit not always by choice. Others are nomadic, migrating from one survivable location to the next, or live permanently aboard void ships or orbital stations. At one extreme are those who vaunt their heresy, reveling in their transgressive deeds and ideology. On the other are fearful outcasts, hiding from retribution or living under assumed identities. Many form enclaves of piratical raiders who hide out in the shadow of spatial anomalies, carve hideouts into the interior of asteroids, or claim lightless gulfs of the void as territory. Some of these reavers are human, such as Queen Yver's Blackfangs, rumoured to cannibalize their victims. Others are uneasy alliances between species, and many are composed solely of mutants, including the Odromark Warherd. Far more powerful are bands of renegade space marines, such as the Red Corsairs, the Harbingers of Kaltar, and the bestial Razored Mane. Even for those heretics with the power to survive through preying on others while evading the hunger of their rivals, there can be no comfortable existence within the Maelstrom. Human smugglers, slavers, gun runners, those who consort with Xenos, every twisted shade of mercenary, from deluded prophetic crusaders to butchers for hire. These and others populate scattered areas of the Maelstrom. There are many hiding from the consequences of contravening imperial laws, apostates, evaders of the Emperor's tithe, political demagogues and dabblers in dark sorceries or forbidden technologies. Among the latter, the diabolic tech magi of the Dark Mechanicum control many facilities within the Maelstrom, the most notorious of which is the fallen forge world of Sarum. Aliens. Multitudinous are the aliens of the galaxy, and all are hated and reviled by the Imperium. There are many that humanity or other species have driven to the brink of extinction. In the tormented and veiled region of the Maelstrom, embittered remnants of some of these have found refuge or allies, relative safety in which to plot revenge. Terrelians, Voisin, Gethartai, Kroot, and others, in ragged bands or hunting as lone mercenaries, plague the region. Despite the psychic danger posed by the warp's power in this region, Red Corsairs also raid the Maelstrom. Far more numerous are those who purposefully inhabit the Maelstrom, either to reap preferred harvests or as a base from which to launch assaults on sectors beyond it. Countless tribes of orc pirates maintain bases there. These groups are in constant flux, fermenting and coagulating in joyful violence. Advisors to the silent king of the Necrons also believed that Thazar, self-styled pirate king and usurper of the Sarnek dynasty, has spread his reaving empire to vulnerable tomb worlds in the Maelstrom. Many kindreds of the leagues of Votan launch resource hunts to planets or anomalies caught in the Gyre, while tendrils of high fleets also coil amid its tides. The demonic threat. As an interstice between real space and the roiling Empyrean, the Maelstrom is saturated with warp energy. It is not evenly distributed, nor does it conform to any known currents. Nothing of the warp heeds any sane laws. In such an environment, the malicious and predatory entities of the warp not only find it easier to breach the dimensional veil separating real space, but are capable of sustaining their manifestations, feeding on the glut of psychic energy that permeates the region. If they are willing to accept reduced circumstances, the inconstant saturation of the area in the warp's power means that there are relatively few places where demons can exist for long periods. The so-called Portentus is a demon enclave said to haunt the depths of the planet Sugalua. It has supposedly been unable to leave since the warp's tide stranded its invasion there. Ever since, it has subsisted on the soul fragments of its former demonic siblings, and by bartering knowledge to mortals in return for slivers of power that allow it to escape. Imperial outposts. Not all the Maelstrom's human denizens prey upon mankind or are traitorous to terror. What isolated holdouts exist, however, are clandestine and fragile, surrounded as they are by those who could easily overwhelm them. Some are worlds, such as Scrome and Alblatus, only recently engulfed by the Maelstrom's expansion, and yet to attract the attention of raiders. There are also warded inquisitorial black sites, amongst which is the Null Bastion, and shrouded fortresses of the Death Watch. Other secretive installations are staffed by those who do not see themselves as heretics, but who nonetheless hide their activities. The Red Corsairs, Reaver Lords of the Maelstrom. Piratical raiders with powerful void fleets, the Red Corsairs are a huge force of renegade space marines who favor lightning-fast attacks over protracted campaigns. These nihilistic plunderers specialize in boarding actions, teleport assaults, and high-speed spearheads. To call the Red Corsairs a mere warband is to deny the true threat they pose. Where small groups of Chaos Space Marines have power to overwhelm well-armed warships, the Red Corsairs have the strength, coordination, and influence to set entire subsectors ablaze. They are reavers of exceptional power, whose infamy and notoriety have spread far beyond the Maelstrom. In that twisted region, they have flourished as vanishingly few have, rising to power from their origins as embittered exiles. The Red Corsairs were born from the horror and devastation of the Badab War. They were the survivors who fled imperial vengeance, remnants of Lugft Huron's astral claws, and scattered renegades who had followed him into heresy. They fought to survive amidst empiric anomalies and demon worlds, stamping their dominance over pirate bands ill-equipped to withstand their assaults. Their bitterness against mankind deepened, and they became the Red Corsairs, naming themselves for the bloody hue they used to deface their former heraldries. Within the Maelstrom and under the tyrannical rule of the resurrected Huron Blackheart, they have grown far stronger in the years since. Renegades originally hailing from dozens of otherwise loyalist chapters have been drawn, consciously or otherwise, into the Maelstrom. Many swear allegiance to the Red Corsairs. There have also been warriors of the ancient traitor legions who have abandoned their former brotherhoods and joined Blackheart's vicious raiders. The warriors pledged to Huron offer a wealth of experience to their overlord and swiftly adapt to the rapid assaults favoured by the Red Corsairs. The hypno-indoctrinated information they carry expands the warband's knowledge of loyalist doctrines, deployments, and security ciphers, and recently turned Space Marines have been used to infiltrate Imperial command structures to capture plans or assassinate officials. Though they have the numbers for large invasions, the Red Corsairs primarily undertake smaller-scale raids. These are swift and savage actions, designed to disorient the foe while securing some ineffable prize or eliminate key commanders, like a dagger sliding between the ribs. Whether storming an enemy vessel during a boarding action or orchestrating a massed armoured spearhead into the foe, speed is their hallmark. Amongst the Red Corsairs' separate fleets are numerous prize ships, wrested from loyalists or stolen from rivals. The band can call upon retrofitted frigates and destroyers, upgunned battlecruisers, and heavy transports bristling with hidden weaponry. The Wolf of Fenris was a strike cruiser of the Space Wolves until its capture, and remains the Tyrant's greatest prize taken from a foe so far. Yet, as a symbol of power, it is dwarfed by the immense black stone fortress gifted to Huron by Abaddon in the wake of the Tyrant's rebellion against the Imperium. Such a kingly offering brought the loyalty of the Red Corsairs for Abaddon's great galactic endeavours to come, and affirmed the warband's standing in the despoiler's eyes. Corsairs Keep. The Blackstone Fortress, gifted to Huron by Abaddon the Despoiler, is an enormous star bastion of incalculable age and potential power. Its innards comprise a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, a fraction of which have been mapped, and whose layout is subject to seemingly random change. Some of its geometric halls are arrayed with spire-like towers along their length, or dropping away into yawning chasms lit with rivulets of energy. Others are narrow and winding, their twisting floors covered with millennia of debris. Indecipherable control panels line the floors and walls, and alongside are remnants of many who ventured inside, or were brought within against their will. Although the Red Corsairs normally control this edifice, the structure's size, complexity, and eldritch past harbour many other entities. Some appear to be native to the station, their form imitating its angular structure. Others are Xenos from far-flung corners of the galaxy, or demonic servants of the Dark Guards. The need to reave. Energy, material, gene seed munitions, captives, and many more resources are constantly sought by Huron's warbands. As much as any other, the Red Corsairs need ships. Without their fleets, they could not rule their realm within the Gyre, evade enemy warbands, explore the region's darkened reaches, and uncover resources or hidden treasures. The Red Corsairs prioritize vessels capable of interstellar travel through the warp and the crews to operate them. Their ships give them power in fleet engagements that few loyalist chapters possess. The ancient vessels of the Astral Claws form the core of many of their frontiers, but most of their other ships are usually merchantmen that have been refitted as makeshift warships. Many carry concealed weapon ports, hidden launch bays, and cannibalized defense systems. By transmitting stolen access codes or forcing captives to broadcast entreaties, such innocuous vessels are used to approach prey fleets or planetary defenses. With their numerous fleets, the Red Corsairs have an advantage over many of the Maelstrom's other denizens, who often possess only small ragtag squadrons, or may instead have no ships by which to leave their planet and hunt elsewhere. Huron's warriors use their mobility in the void to hunt down and seize other resources needed for survival. Caches of weapons and ammunition, fuel, energy and technology are vital to power future raids or as resources for bartering. Knowledge and expertise are also needed, especially experienced naval crews and the mutant scions of the navigator houses, making Imperial warships prime targets. To guarantee their future, the Red Corsairs also need stockpiles of gene seed. Reeve captains and raiders. Commanding the Red Corsairs, often disaffected bands of renegades are Huron's piratical underlings. Amongst the most successful are Blackheart's Reeve captains. These marauders have varied origins, but all have instincts for coordinating lucrative raids and surviving the ambitions of their lessers. Reeve captains are masters of ambush and rapid strikes. They excel in outflanking strategies, feigning withdrawals, and multi-front assaults that splinter their foes and force them to deal with attacks from unexpected sources. Utterly without mercy, they will sacrifice warriors under their command if they calculate it will result in a greater haul of plunder. Many Reeve captains rise to lead entire warbands of Red Corsairs, effectively as client warlords under Huron's banner. Amongst the Red Corsairs' battle brothers are those who have thrived by adapting their ingrained killing skills to the art of the raid. These are the raiders, the elite of Blackheart's operation. Raiders are obsessed with claiming plunder and the evisceration of any who seek to bar them from their prize. They are impatient and aggressive, roving ahead of their fellow Red Corsairs to be the first to seize the loot. They brandish arrays of weapons they have earned as boons from their lords, or have torn from their victims' dead grasps. Armed and equipped with a motley of blades, pistols, firearms and grenades, gangs of raiders frequently surge off without support, arrogant and selfish enough to seek their own pickings. Where it suits them, raiders will stick to the larcenous scheme of their warband's commander. They will invent their own missions, however, should they sense the opportunity, and few other Red Corsairs are willing to follow after them in the hope of freely sharing the spoils. Renegade survival. With each new millennium, disillusioned or power-hungry battle brothers defect, such as Lugft Huron did from the Imperium service. Few, even amongst the Inquisition, have any idea of the scale of the rot. In severing such ties, renegades must then endure a far meaner existence. 10,000 years ago, when the heretics of the traitor legions were thrown back from the Emperor's gates and fled to the Eye of Terror, many could still count themselves part of an enormous engine of war. Even weakened, traitor legions such as the Iron Warriors and Death Guard retained something of their former structure and were tremendous forces. They comprised not only the surviving and embittered battle brothers, but also mighty fleets and armies of mortal thralls. They benefited from hellish pacts with other elements that had plunged into the Horus heresy alongside them, such as tech priests of the Dark Mechanicum. Renegades of later eras rarely have anything of the sort to call upon. They must scavenge and steal, fighting tooth and nail when their ammunition runs dry and the cells of their advanced weapons sputter and die. If they cannot acquire a ship or force passage on one, they may end up trapped upon a world. There are myths in some sectors of unstoppable iron-skinned giants hunting from one settlement to another on isolated worlds, feeding on the dead and roaring their hatred into the gulfs of night. Renegade Space Marines can endure incredible privations, created as they were to survive the worst of the Imperium's foes. Even alone, they can retain their deadly skills through starvation and drought, shrug off poisons, and power on with reserves of will. But they are not immortal. Should imbalances occur within their alchemical biology, their body can turn on them. Should the reactor of their armor malfunction, their battle plate becomes a dead weight. Shriven from the culture of their martial brotherhood, madness can soon beckon. New freedoms, new chains. Many renegade space marines become pirates and mercenaries, using their unequaled battle skills to gather wealth and power. Some lose themselves in the seemingly consequence-free violence. The most powerful might set themselves up as tyrannical fleet masters, the rulers of bases on desolate planets, or even as the gods of feral tribes. Such positions amongst mortals rarely last, often descending into bloodshed and madness. Space Marines are living weapons. They are made to fight in the most apocalyptic of wars, to do so again and again until they fall in battle. It is a part of themselves they can never escape. Most renegades who survive to perpetuate their heresy do so by finding and joining a warband of other transhuman warriors. The Red Corsairs are amongst the most prominent and notorious of such groups, but others exist throughout the galaxy. If a Space Marine thought treachery meant freedom, they are debased of this notion upon falling in with other heretics. In the drive to acquire those things they need to survive, they discover they have exchanged one tyrant for another. In return for armaments, repairs to their war gear, and esoteric gene technology to maintain their bodies, renegades end up accepting the leash of a new master about their necks. Red Corsair Warlords. Lord Drak Terazar, the Iron Reeve. Once an officer of the Iron Hands, Drak Terazar was censured for allowing a horrendous catalogue of deaths amongst allied soldiery. He was sentenced to a century of penance and dispatched to serve it with the Death Watch. But Terazar saw the condemnation as a betrayal of himself and his Primarch's edicts alike. He killed the transit ship's surf crew en route and vanished from his chapter's ken. In the years since, Terazar's bitterness over his treatment has only grown. He despises mortal humanity as a flawed prototype, hating it for what he sees as vaunting frailty. In the Maelstrom, he found a force that respected strength in the Red Corsairs. Lord Terazar has risen high amongst their ranks. His ruthlessness and utter disregard for humans and aliens alike have enabled him to seize immense stockpiles of resources and numerous prize ships, but precious few survivors for enslavement. Terazar sees Huron's time as over and himself as a logical replacement. The Crimson Choir, Geist of the Rad Marches. The Dark Apostle, known only as the Crimson Choir, is a preacher of butchery in the name of the Dark Gods. He is a loyal supporter of Huron, and though Blackheart disdains worship, the choir's zealotry is a potent tool to sway renegades to the tyrant's service. His warband, the Thirsting Suns, are skilled in hunting down patrols of fellow transhumans, and the choir controls huge reserves of gene seed, bloodily torn from Space Marines of over a dozen lineages. He is careful to hand over frequent supplies to Huron, though his cryovaults are well hidden from his master. None know the choir's true identity. He once claimed to Blackheart that his veins hold the blood of Sanguinius, yet over his decades of service to Huron, his mannerisms, voice, deadly skills and talents, even his flesh and skin, have seemed to alter. To some Red Corsairs, this is evidence that the Crimson Choir is merely a position, or perhaps a host, occupied by one murderous sorcerer after the next. Balemaster Veerless Creel, Enslaver of the Ark. Veerless Creel is a vicious reaver and a deadly exponent of ship-to-ship fighting. When one of the dread Arks of Omen and its attendant Bale fleet strayed into the Maelstrom, it was Creel who masterminded its capture. He now rules a gigantic vessel renamed Undermoor, using it as a mobile base to board and capture more luckless vessels. What had remained of the former Space Hulk's Bale fleet was mostly fragmented, some retained by Creel, with the other survivors gifted to ambitious lieutenants of Huron himself. Originally of the Mantis Warriors, the Balemaster is one of the few survivors of that chapter's treachery during the Badab War. He curses those former battle brothers that meekly accepted capture and seek to atone in the Imperium's eyes. He has vowed never to forget what he sees as Terra's faithlessness towards him. He thus continues to refuse a replacement for the crude bionic eye he was hastily implanted with during the desperate evacuations from Badab Primus. General Heinrich Falkreiber, the Black Wolf. Once a Spire Marshal of Styx, Falkreiber is a traitor Astartes Militarum officer. He is a cruel strategist and a callous spender of the lives under his command. The Black Wolf perpetuates a feral cult of personality that sees his soldiers top banners with lupine fetishes or squall beast shapes on tank armor. Falkreiber's dreams of conquest at Imperial frontiers were dashed when his long-awaited regimental command was relegated to anti-piracy suppression around Styx. Seeing the commission as an insult, and with his reports and requests frequently ignored, the general flung himself into understanding his piratical prey. In so doing, he came to see the opportunities denied to him. In Huron service, Falkreiber skillfully wields armies of traitor guardsmen as well as seized battle tanks and artillery pieces crewed by hastily inducted turncoats. At other times, he has fought alongside Huron's transhuman elite, driving mobs of cultists and mutants forward to overwhelm enemy strongpoints. End quote. If you enjoyed this presentation, then please do pick up a copy of The Lair of the Tyrant. There's quite a lot of fun stuff in there. And secondly, of course, like, subscribe, share, and tip, if I have indeed earned your bounty. But most importantly of all, as always, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.